Hello, everyone. We are going to start in about 3 to 4 minutes. We're just going to give everyone time to join, and then we will go through today's event. Can you just give us a thumbs up or a quick yes in the chat if you can hear me as well as the speakers? If you'd like to say hi.
Hello. Good morning.
Is that good?
Lunchtime.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hello to everyone who has just joined. We are going to wait about 2 minutes to start. We're just going to give everyone time to join in. I just want to say that we are going to be recording this session. So for whoever can't join, we will pass this along. Make sure you tell your colleagues because we are also giving away a walking pad to one lucky webinar attendee. So if you want to message anyone to join, now is your moment. If you have any questions during the webinar, or if you already have something you want to ask Tim or Ollie from Fitness First, go ahead and pop the questions into the chat. We're going to be going through everything towards the end of the webinar. Okay, great. I think we have had a good couple of people join at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and kick off today's event. We are really happy to be hosting our January event with Fitness First. It's going to be a really exciting one. We're going to be taking you through the mindset behind starting on a Monday, how that will help you kickstart your goals, whether they're just small ones or the ones that are going to lead you at the end of 2026 feeling really strong and successful. We are being joined by Ollie and Tim from Fitness First. Tim has over 25 years of experience working within the fitness industry, and he is known for transforming facilities within the fitness space. And Ollie has spearheaded innovative wellness programs and is known for driving engagement within Fitness First. So I'm sure they have a lot to share with you today. And without talking any further, I will leave it to both our speakers to take this over.
Yeah, good guys. The way we're going to work this, so I can save you from the constant drone of my Midland accent, is we'll do little sections a piece so that you get a bit of a different voice, but all based on the same sort of stuff. All as Manuel said, based around strategy, psychology, and fresh start mindset. I'll maybe talk a little bit more about experiences, whereas Ollie's the brains behind the operation. He'll probably quote a few more stats than I will. But I suppose just to start it off, I've spoken to a lot of people already that are there, and they've been honest with me, and they've said that their New Year's resolution already feels like a distant memory. So if there are any of you that are out there that are feeling like that, you're absolutely not alone. I've spoken to people within our clubs and people even within my family that are already of that mindset. So you're absolutely not alone, and statistically even that is backed up by most resolutions fail by the third week of January. And that was one of the contributing factors, I think, of where this whole Blue Monday piece resonated from. And not just Fitness First, lots of operators jumped on the back of that and really tried to spin it on its head, I suppose, and really make everybody aware of the benefits of getting a real nice strategy and a fresh start mindset. So we came up with this concept sort of probably 10, 15 years ago, where we called it Red Monday, and we had loads of activities. We gave joining offers and had great product launches. So we've been on that trail for a long time. But the secret, I guess, for me is you don't really need New Year to start over. All you need is a Monday, and that's the whole concept behind this little session that we put together today. The psychology and the psychologists, I suppose, call this the temporal landmark effect. And basically, it's just Monday acts as it's like a reset button for your brain, allowing you to distance yourselves from everything that went wrong last week, past failures, and times when you haven't succeeded in the past, and almost view yourself as a new person and it's a new start. So we did a little bit of research at Fitness First, showing that front footing the week is what we called it, meant controlling or taking control of Monday before the week kind of takes control of you, because obviously we all have loads of stuff going on in our lives. It's easy to be driven by what's going on in your environment. So individuals, as part of this research that we tested, those that took real control of it felt significantly less tired and more on top of their workload. And we put that down to the difference being that, you know, rather than being a passenger in the week, you're a driver. I might come up with a few analogies like that today, but I thought that was just a nice analogy to think of yourself as the driver of your week. You take control rather than being led by what goes on around you. And in my experience of training loads of people over the years and seeing members that have succeeded and not over the years, I would honestly say that clients that really succeed aren't the strongest or the fittest. They're the ones that are organized enough to treat every Monday effectively like January the 1st. So that Sunday night, they know that they have to prep their food, prep their supplements, get their hydration sorted, pack their gym clothes, be organized enough to check in for a class or a gym membership, whatever it might be. But that mindset resonates with them every single Monday, and that's how they succeed. So much more consistency rather than that person being a physiological specimen all the time. And that leads me over to more, I suppose, this whole piece on strategy over willpower, because a lot of people bring it back to, oh, I've got the willpower to do this. But for me, it's not about the willpower. It's about your strategy. So I want you to think about it as almost like a rule of 52 weeks, because you've got 52 new years in this year coming up. And if you miss a workout on a Thursday or a Friday, you know, don't wait till that next goal, or, you know, I'm going to start again when I'm looking towards this goal of a holiday or a competition. Just use that Monday effect to pivot immediately. And if you do have a bad day, it's only a couple more days till you get to that Monday, and you've just got to get that mindset to pivot immediately. Again, another analogy that Fitness First came up with was the lead domino effect. So we looked at it like a Monday multiplier. So if you think of the dominoes that are all set up for a nice domino rally, Fitness First data revealed that if you train on a Monday, and I'll come into this in just a second, you're way more statistically likely to visit more times that week. So my analogy was, think about it as a domino. When Monday falls, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday falls as well, because you're in that routine. But if you skip Monday, obviously that domino rally is not going to take effect, and your attendance will drop at the back end of the week. So almost think about it as you're not skipping that workout on the Monday, but you're almost sabotaging your entire week's momentum. So it's really important to get off that great start on a Monday. And then I started thinking about really trying to relate this to you guys as professionals, corporate professionals, and your perspective. So I'm sure you, like I, treat your work calendar, your Google calendar, your Teams calendar, whatever it might be, with real respect. And, you know, if you've got a meeting at 9 o'clock with your CEO, you're at your meeting with your CEO, and you're at a product launch at 11 o'clock, and you're at a club meeting at 1 o'clock, and, you know, you show up because it's there, and that's what I suppose you've always been focused, being to showing up and having respect to your calendar. But what I find is that a lot of people don't treat themselves with that same respect on a calendar. So when you've finished your whole day's work and you haven't put it in a calendar to go and, you know, respect yourself at the gym, you just cancel because it's not in the same sort of temporal mindset. And that's when you rely on willpower rather than a strategy. And I think that's where people do fall down, because willpower, it's like a finite resource, isn't it? You've only got so much of it. And especially for people that train at the end of the day, by that time, your willpower has been ground down by the hundreds and thousands of work decisions that you've had to make throughout that day. So your willpower battery by that time might be like 10%, 5%. So it's obviously more likely that you're going to give yourself a break from something that you haven't got in your diary. But strategy means that you almost remove that choice. So you don't decide to go to Fitness First on a Monday. You just simply follow your calendar invite that you set up on Sunday and set up for the week. So having that strategy really eliminates the element of choice, I suppose. So just before I pass over to Ollie, I've just put down, I suppose, some actionable tools for you as well, hub users, because your Monday reset, because of the amount of resource that you've got available to you, is actually quite easy. So I wouldn't really overcomplicate it. For me, the strategy is just to get all those sessions booked into your calendar on a Sunday night and really focus on making sure that you do make that Monday session. So you've got that domino effect, and just make sure that it's something that you really enjoy. Maybe it's a class near the office or a PT that you know near the office. And these sessions, especially when they're orchestrated by a professional, are great for you as busy professionals, because you've got to take away the thought of, oh, I've got to build the session, I've got to remember my weights, and I've got to remember the choreography. You know, classes and PT sessions and all that sort of stuff have got a really high ROI for your time. One of the other things I would say as well as a tool is to utilize apps and wearables and the accountability that can give you. If I use a personal experience of mine, I'm quite into my cycling, so I have an app called Zwift, and we have to log into races. So I've got my 2 races that I've got as pretty staple sessions for me this week, all booked in. So in my head, I know I've checked with the missus, it's cool. I've checked with the kids, they're okay. I've checked with work, it's not in work time. And I've got those sessions that now are just part of my week, and that's just how it happens. Think about also the different products within, I don't know, there's not just Fitness First, but within Fitness First particularly, I'm really tasked at the moment on making sure that different areas of the club have got different product offerings. So is it going to be a cardio session that's important? Is it strength? Is it classes? Is it stretching? Is it active recovery? Is it reformer Pilates? Or do we go down more the route of something that I'm really trying to put into all of our clubs at the moment? Plunge pools, sauna therapy, cushion therapy, compression therapy. Don't think of that session of going to the gym as just a really hard session. I'll come on to it a little bit more after Ollie's spoken for a little bit, but the holistic side of things is just as important as those really hard sessions. I suppose to summarize that little section, Monday for me is the most important day of your week, not because of the work that you do in that Monday session, but more about because of the tone that you set. I've got another little stat here. So don't be part of the 56% who spend their Tuesdays playing catch up. Be that person that is on the front foot. So book the Monday slot, pack your bags Sunday night. That's important too. And just let Monday be that real engine that drives that success. So I'll just pass over to Ollie for a second, and he'll take you through some of the stats.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And look, guys, I think you know, there's some unbelievable golden nuggets in Tim's segment there, and a load of great analogies, which I always think are really powerful to you know, really associate, you know, and encapsulate everyone's thinking into how this all works. But it's all about Monday, and you know, Tim's framed it perfectly. But we just really want to show you why committing to movement and exercise on Mondays, you know, isn't just symbolic, which there's a load of symbolism in these resets and new starts, but it's just statistically and psychologically relevant and backed up with information and studies that have been done, you know, in this space around behavior change. So it's one of the strongest levers you can pull, you know, for long-term health consistency. Tim's mentioned a few stats there, but just generally, there's reports enough out there that say, you know, 82% of people, you know, would testify to that if they start training on a Monday, they feel like that's going to set them up for the week. So it's almost like we know and we feel that is true, and it's about, you know, applying some of the techniques and tactics that Tim's outlined there to really cement that. That's how you approach the week, capitalize on what you know would be a good move, but it's just how we do it. And he spelled out some really good ideas there for using that as a launch pad on your Mondays. Beyond that, the study that Tim's referenced, that Fitness First conducted, it's a couple of years old now, but the data holds up from what we see in our own insights, which is that if you do attend Monday, the average amount of sessions that you're going to then have in the week is 3 beyond that. So going back to that domino effect, you know, that's what you see when you keep your dominoes stacked, all right, by coming in on Monday and then having the subsequent sessions that are planned in as well. You're just way more likely to adhere to those. But if you skip Monday, we found that the average number actually drops to only 1.5 visits in the week. So there's a huge difference there, almost double in that remainder of the week. So it's got to really be part of how you're approaching the entire week. And as Tim also mentioned, if life gets in the way, don't worry, because the next Monday actually isn't too far away and you can get it right then. So it's not disastrous. And again, I like the reference to, you've got, you know, 52 new years essentially within a year to continue to reinforce your consistency and maximize your commitment to your own behavior change. The big thing for me, again, Tim touched on it in terms of how do we maintain adherence and what's available to us, and certainly through gyms and operators like ourselves, what are we trying to provide people to, you know, keep our end of the bargain almost, right? So if you are committing to visit a health facility and hopefully a Fitness First one, you know, what's available to you in that toolbox to maintain the adherence to exercise. And one of the studies that show the impact of structured workout programs was that, you know, almost 80% more likely that you'll remain engaged with what you're doing if it's structured. So it's one thing having a commitment to turn up to a gym on a Monday and execute, you know, a almost random or loosely constructed session, but it's absolutely another thing if you have a plan of exactly what you're doing. And we have obviously professionals and mechanisms that do help you structure a suitable and personalized program. And the evidence is there that if you have one of those, you're significantly more likely to remain adhering to your own commitment of the number of visits and the number of workouts that you want to do within your overall plan. So I think that for me was the real headline, you know, statistic related to, you've made a commitment. We know the science is there. We know the feeling is there that if we start well, but if we do start well, you know, what then? And let's just make sure that we do have a plan and structure around our activity when we are visiting gym too. Okay, so I guess that leads in nicely to, you know, maybe the other array of things that we do at Fitness First, and from a product standpoint, you know, Tim, as he touched on, is looking at all sorts of cool toys and different zones in our gyms that, you know, really fulfill the full spectrum of a wellness visit to a facility, rather than the old adage of, you know, or not necessarily an adage, but definitely I think, you know, the gym industry has an association of a successful visit to a gym means that you've annihilated your body in that visit, when actually there's so much evidence now that interacting with yourself, your body and your mind when you visit a gym facility in different ways is just as positively impactful on your entire health and fitness. So Tim, I guess, you know, we can maybe dive into some of the things that we're doing that help on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, holistic health and sustainability or sustainable momentum, I suppose, is something that I wish I'd have focused on. Obviously, on the intro, they said 20, 25, 26 years actually. I've worked for Fitness First now. A lot of that time being a personal trainer, and I think my biggest takeaway during that whole time is it didn't need to be all about intensity as much as moving to consistency and mental resilience and just changing mindset. I guess to help us think about that, we especially corporate individuals and working down here in London, we often treat fitness a little bit like a project deadline. I'm sure many of you use, Microsoft projects and all that sort of stuff, and you could think about your fitness and do it as a project like that. And in terms of appointments, I don't think that's a bad thing, but if that intensity is too great and we absolutely smash ourselves to bits for 2 weeks and then burn out, that's just not where we want to be. Your body, I guess it's not like a spreadsheet. It's a whole ecosystem, and in the corporate world, we're taught to sprint to a deadline and pull all-nighters or do what you have to do to get the presentation done or whatever it might be. But you can't be like that with your health, because if you go absolute beast mode 2 hours once a fortnight, I don't think you're getting fit, particularly not mentally. You're getting injured, and potentially you might get resentful of those sessions because they're so hard. So I think the secret to longevity and making sure that it sticks is minimum effective dose. So I would absolutely rather see you in our clubs, or any clubs for that matter, for 20 to 30 minutes, 2, 3, 4 times a week, just doing a bit rather than a real massive session once a month. Consistency for me creates identity, if you like. So when you're showing up consistently, you stop the mindset of I'm trying to get fit, and you start the mindset of I'm a person that wants to take care of myself, and that's important. And I think that's where the identity shift really is, and where the real power lies. I almost want you, I guess, to think of your fitness as a tool to make you better at business or better at your job. So exercise isn't just about how big your biceps are. It's about prefrontal cortex. So movement flushes out stress hormone, flushes out cortisol, and it replaces it with something called BDNF. Now, that's not my research. This is Harvard researchers know about this protein called BDNF, and they call it like a miracle grow or a fertilizer for the brain. And it physically repairs neutrons and improves task switching. So, and I struggle with this with the owner of our business. I always was a real advocate of taking a little bit of time out in the middle of the day, because you've had a tough morning, you've been through a lot of stuff. You almost want like a little bit of time away from your desk to reset. So think about a midday workout, not like the guy that I spoke to does, as time away from your desk. It's actually a bit of a reboot for your operating system. So if you're stuck on something that's really stressing you out at work, or a complex problem, and you just want to get your head right, a 30-minute swim or a lifting session will do a load more for your productivity than smashing another espresso. So that's one to think about. And then there's the nutritional halo as well. Again, going back to some of the research that we did with some of the providers that we worked with on our Red Monday campaigns, the research showed that this Monday effect creates a halo effect. 34% of people found that their nutrition improved for the rest of the week just by starting the exercise routine on a Monday. It became like a keystone habit, I suppose. It's one of the habits that makes all the other good habits of eating well and drinking well, I don't mean loads of lagers there, I mean hydration well and sleeping better, so much easier to maintain. The advantage, I suppose, that you've got again with WellHub is that you have access to so many things, so you can keep things super fresh. If I talk explicit about Fitness First, we offer everything from really heavy lifting classes. Ollie's working with some great operators at the moment, right at the top end of the strength world, Olympic strength, Olympic lifters, to products in the swimming pool and recovery zones. So we often think of the gym as work and hard work, but particularly at Fitness First and where we're going, these recovery zones and saunas and steam rooms and pools are absolutely as vital as those tough sessions. So recovery where your muscles repair will drop that cortisol level. If you've had a real high stress day, your workout might actually be just 20 minutes in the sauna or 20 minutes sitting on these fancy chairs that I've just put in, getting your compression legs on, because all those things are something that will move the needle on your health. The other thing, and something that I mean, it's a little bit different for me because I know a lot of the people in our clubs, but if I can just get through the door, you know, the operator will help with the rest. So if you are feeling really sluggish, think about a sort of 1% rule. If you can just get through the front door and even tell yourself, you know, I'm going to be there 5-10 minutes, if that's all you can commit to in your head. But then once you're there, because you've made the effort to get there 90% of the time, because there'll be a good atmosphere, or you might be meeting an instructor you like, or a PT that you like, or even other members that you like, you know, that community will carry you through. We invest a lot of time in music and ambience and making sure that that environment is somewhere that you want to stay. So sometimes the hardest part isn't the workout, it's just getting there. And that's particularly prevalent for myself. So I suppose trying to close again this section off, look at your Wellhub app as a menu, not a chore list. You know, if you're tired, maybe it's just a sauna session or a yoga session. Oh, the yoga's easy, by the way, but maybe it's that. Or if you're really stressed, maybe you look at that menu and you think, yeah, I need a boxing class or something like that. Use the products available to you to keep that variety, which will help keep your mind really engaged. So I suppose your fitness shouldn't be a task on your to-do list. And this is the mindset change. It needs to be like the energy source that allows you to finish that task list. So again, my final sort of session on this point is that don't aim for perfection all the time. Aim for presence and consistency. Whether it's heavy lift or stretch, just show up for yourself, not because it's a hard session or you think you've got something that, or it's something that you feel you have to do. Please genuinely just try and do it for yourself and turn your health into effectively your competitive advantage. So always start on a Monday and just stay consistent. Back to you, Rob.
Yeah, I just wanted to, before we get into some questions, hopefully, finish on some other low friction ways to really get this going. And we are fundamentally talking about the Monday effect and getting things started on a Monday, and we've gone into a lot of detail on that. And aside from the wonderful environments that we're trying to create a Fitness First to ensure that you have a motivation already to go and visit somewhere that is somewhere you want to be and want to remain in. There's a load of other things that we try and do to make it as easy as possible to formulate that energy that's required. And Tim's mentioned a few ways there to maybe reposition your thinking about how to maximize time depending on what your energy level is, and that might be a sauna or compression session, and all those things exist, but there's some other ones as well that I want to just mention here because they're super powerful. We've spent a lot of time now talking about how you as an individual and in your own mind need to consider these things and maybe put some effective strategies in place and turn up. But there's one element of our proposition that that's proven to be super powerful for adherence to exercise and regular visits to facilities and maintaining consistency, and that's exercising in groups. Okay, so there was a couple of references there to the menu, and definitely on that menu is going to be some class options, and that's something that I would urge everyone to really consider getting involved in. And there's some real, you know, as you're saying, powerful reasons why that mode of exercise or that format of exercise, you know, is super powerful in the space, and it's because of the other people that are there. And if you can, you know, put yourself in a position where you've got other like-minded individuals in the same space, you know, pursuing the same things, which classes act as a vessel for, then you can find actually community, and community is incredibly powerful to help you, you know, keep these things going and find that energy within yourself to get there. Because you've got all of a sudden accountability to a commitment that you've made by booking a class, let's say, and hopefully the community that you've formed in the sessions that you've identified as suitable or effective or fun for you to participate in. Yeah. So if I now, you know, have formed a behaviour, I go to a particular class on a Monday, let's say, for the theme of this session's sake, you know, if I now, you know, for whatever reason aren't feeling like that's something that I can be, you know, getting the energy up for today, then actually I've got a load of considerations that maybe get me over the line and get me through the door. Because I don't want to let my pal down that I see every Monday morning in that session, or the coach who's investing their time and energy into helping me within that exercise period that we've committed to, they're helping me reach my goals and keeping me motivated. So there's so much going on in that mode of exercise that I just wanted to tack that onto the end. It's something we can definitely interact with within our facilities, but something that's proven to be super powerful in keeping people engaged in exercise. So I guess that takes us nicely maybe to some questions.
I was just going to jump on what you said as well about community. Couldn't be any more right. I mean, we're even looking at, with Ollie's doing it right now, changing almost the naming strategy of a lot of our classes to clubs, because it is so important. You do feel part of a club. You know, running clubs, lifting clubs, high rocks clubs, all these sort of communities. Ollie's absolutely right. Just being there for your mate is one of the most important things you can ever do. So couldn't agree more on that.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim and Ollie, for sharing those nuggets and all the information with us. We have one question so far. I will read it out for you. Any tips on how to get through the front door? Anxiety stops me from going to a gym as I feel self-conscious because I am unfit and don't know what I am doing.
I would put that one as one tip. Certainly would be to go with a friend, or to meet a friend, because strength in numbers, I guess, in terms of actual anxiety to getting through the front door. But you know, I would like to hope, and it's easy for me to say as a regular gym user, that we're doing a lot of work with our front of house teams to really make people feel as comfortable as possible, particularly in months like this where we do see a lot of new users. And you know, even slightly so moving on here, but even members within our clubs, once you get there, because our clubs are very busy in January, you do see a lot more interaction between people and a lot more help coming from other members. So, you know, I just really encourage you to do the best you can to interact with somebody and don't stay on your own, I suppose would be my biggest tip. Because whether it's a friend or a PT or just getting into a community where you've got like-minded people, that always helps with anxiety.
Yeah, I would just also add that you can't speak for every facility or gym in the country, but we can, you know, share a reasonable testimony on what we do. And we've got great people in our clubs, and I promise you, you know, they cannot wait to help everybody and make everyone feel welcome and support that person's journey from start to finish. So if you can get through the door, you know, that is definitely waiting for you in a Fitness First facility. So yeah.
If you need help finding a Fitness First facility near you, it's really easy when you have the app. All you need to do is go into the search bar and type in your postcode and then filter it for gyms, and the closest Fitness First will pop up within that. You can also just type in Fitness First, name any other gym or app that you're looking to get started on the wellbeing journey with within that search bar to make things easier for you. As Tim and Ollie mentioned, there are a lot of avenues to get started on your wellbeing journey, whether that's by yourself. It can even be within your home space, as Wellhub offers online PT sessions and lots of apps that will give you workouts to do at home or at the gym. And on that note, we also have one more question for you guys. It says, I think I need to prioritize what I want to do and get some form of plan, but struggling to know where to begin. I'm working on building up my running, strength, and stretching in equal measures. So would welcome any suggestions on how to create some kind of plan.
Well, there's a few answers and a real obvious one that Ollie will about right here. But I suppose for me, if you're really embedded in wanting to get a professional plan, personal trainers are the way to go. Personal trainers are part of my remit, and they'll absolutely help you build a fantastic plan. But it doesn't mean that you have to pay for that initially. So we do have personal trainers that work within Fitness First that do almost like a hybrid contract. So they'll work hours for us, so you can get help on plans that we could create for you as part of the Fitness First offering. But if you wanted it really, really bespoke to your specific running and stretching needs, you probably want to go to a PT for a little bit more information on that. I did notice somebody earlier on in the chat has also mentioned about movement for menopause as well, and that's something that's very important. And as part of my remit of education for the personal trainers, we're working on dead specific workshops on menstrual cycle, menopause, mental health, all those. So it's great that you bring that up, and within the next 6 months, I would really hope that our whole resource of trainers would be much more educated to help people who have specific requirements that are a little bit more specialist. I also noticed in the chat there about the chronic illnesses and finding it hard to stick to a plan. And I suppose my response on that one is, don't always think that those sessions, like I said earlier, have to be those tough sessions where you have to get to the gym. It might just be a little bit of activity. It might just be getting to the club to try and get to the sauna to help you with that pain. Yeah, just don't think of every session as needing to be that tough go-to hard gym session.
Lovely. Those are some great suggestions. And to add on to another question, I think this is connecting to the fact that we're giving away a walking pad. And someone has asked, walking pads look like a great way for movement. Have you got any suggestions on what you can do on them to keep it engaging and more than just walking?
I think one thing about walking actually that people, you don't tend to, you see this sometimes in gyms where actually you think the gait in walking is one thing, and people will go on a treadmill or anything and just walk in one plane of movement. And actually the options that you've got when you're on a mechanical device that's helping you within that form of exercise can be multi-planed. Okay, so you can, so long as you've got handles, which I don't know what the product is specifically that you guys are offering, but in terms of lateral movement on the belt and even walking backwards, these are all slight variations in the same thing, but really important to round off all the muscles that are involved in that simple act of walking. So if that's something that you can formulate yourself with the product, then that's certainly something I would advocate.
God, back in the day, I had some of the best quads in the business, and my routine was walking uphill backwards. Honestly, brilliant for your quads.
Brutal.
Nice ones. I'd like to go back to one question that you briefly mentioned. As someone with a chronic illness, I can find it hard to stick to my plan and schedule if I get a flare-up. Any tips on how to not let these days throw off my whole week and keep me motivated?
Yeah, I think I quickly mentioned just about making sure that those recovery days are part of the plan, not considered, you know, not part of the plan. Those recovery days and those stretch days and those lesser high intensity activity days are just as important. So if they're the ones that are throwing you off, just make sure that those are scheduled into your calendar and just do your best when you can really make a difference. Because I know that I've trained plenty of people with uh, illnesses like that, you know, just some days they flare up and you just can't do it, but you've just got to be able to pivot and make sure that when you can, that you do, and when you can't, that you've got something else that you can do that supports your goal. Even whether that might be, okay, I can't make it to the gym today, but what I can do is I can sort out my nutrition for tomorrow, or I can make sure that my supplements are set up, or get my gym clothes ready for tomorrow. Just, you know, always just thinking of yourself.
Love that. Someone has asked whether WellHub is doing an event for menstrual and menopause exercise, and we do have an event coming up in March, which is going to be focused around women's well-being and your cycle. So just stay tuned for more information on that. As Ollie and Tim mentioned, you can treat your well-being or treat WellHub as a menu. You can look up any location for Fitness First that is available on WellHub and go to Fitness First using WellHub. You need to be subscribed to the silver and above for most of the locations that you're going to find on there. There are also a lot of apps that are on WellHub that you can use within the gym space to get a workout. We have Heavy, we have iFit, Miraculous, a lot of different ones, even Strava to get into that Run Club. There are also a lot of nutrition apps to help with recovery, inflammation, and women's well-being. So enjoy exploring that. Are there any other questions before we end this? Yes, we actually do have questions. How much rest do we really need between workouts, and does this change as fitness improves?
I think the answer to that question is very particular to each individual. So we briefly mentioned, you know, wearable devices that can help formulate a picture of what's going on in your body and prompt you to respond depending on what the metrics that are coming back at you are. So I would advocate, you know, trying to understand as much as you possibly can about the physiology and what's going on in your body during and after workouts. And there's plenty of tools out there, we don't need to mention them, but that will help you understand as an individual exactly what the appropriate or recommended recovery can be for you. So it would be, you know, it would be challenging, you know, for us to provide any general recommendations on that, given how different you know everyone is and how different everyone's regimes are. So I'd just urge you to try and find out as much as possible about yourself in those regards, and then you should be able to get some, you know, really specific recommendations on that type.
I would just add to that, I suppose, if you haven't got, Ollie's absolutely right, by the way, but if you don't wear wearable devices or you don't have access to that sort of thing, in terms of activity, I mean, you could do relatively low level cardio most days without any issue, providing you recover okay. You have to be a little bit more careful with strength, because effectively when you're strength training, you're actually sort of effectively tearing your muscle fibers, so they need time to recover. So I probably wouldn't advocate doing a really heavy strength workout every day, because you just need to factor in that time that you need to recover. So if you were in that scenario, you might split your body parts a little bit. So you have to do upper body on a Monday and then lower body on a Tuesday, so that you get those sessions in. But Ollie's absolutely right. There's some great apps and wearables that will give you some real focused information based on you.
Yeah, I did see one other note from Lisa, who I think was mentioned yoga and its benefits in relation to chronic illness, and you know, there's certainly lots of different modes of exercise that you can interact with that help across, you know, a spectrum of different conditions. You know, we try to you know, innovate in these spaces as well, and you know, Tim's doing a lot of work on the product side of our business, and ensuring that the likes of recovery zones, as he's mentioned, feature, you know, new technologies, you know, things like red light, you know, that can help on a cellular level, you know, ensuring we have, you know, a product range that's befitting of, you know, all these different, you know, means and modes of helping across that full spectrum of a range of different conditions. You know, we've been combining those sorts of things, you know, with all the other great stuff that we've talked about. You know, we've just done a recent pop-up session where we look to combine red light with, you know, yoga practices and Pilates, and you know, trying to maximize the time and the benefits that are available. So, you know, look out for those sorts of things, because you know, we're really trying to lean into that, and I think you know, you'll see some exciting stuff from us in that space in the near future.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Ollie and Tim. For anybody who's wondering how to book classes from Fitness First or any other studio or gym on WellHub, all you need to do is go into the search bar, type Fitness First, pick the location you would like to go to, and then once you're on that page, just at the bottom, there's going to be an option that says View Schedule. Go ahead and click that. You can see it by any day of the week, and just click that class that you're looking for, whether it's yoga or a CrossFit, and then once you've done that, you just book the class, and when you're there, remember to check in. The same rule applies for a lot of different gyms and studios on WellHub. The ones that don't have a schedule available will have more information in the About section, and you can always give the partner a call with the number that is provided under that page. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and to Tim and Ollie for sharing so much great information with us today, and for letting everybody know how much Fitness First offers. We look forward to seeing you during the next event. Have a lovely day ahead.